Hi everyone, I'm Douglas Burberry and I'm a scholar of history, and particularly of Tasmanian history. There are several information plaques dotted around the township of Campbell Town in the Midlands, which give some details on the history of the township. These plaques have been set up by the Northern Midlands Council. One of these plaques is set up on Montague Street, which branches off to the east from Bridge Street, at the southern end of the original Campbell Town Bridge. This plaque says that the land here is called the Rookery and that it used to be the site of Thomas Kenton's cottage. Now, I may make another video on this particular topic later on, but right now I want to focus on the claim in the last paragraph of the information plaque that there was a tannery on this site. In particular, the plaque claims that in later years there was a tannery here. The site was perfect. The Elizabeth River had lagoons that never dried up, and it was big business. Now, I will make it clear right now, the claim is incorrect. There was never a tannery on this site. Once upon a time there was a brewery here, and a public house which was licensed under 3 different names during its brief history. But there was never a tannery. The mistaken idea that there was a tannery on this land came from a newspaper advertisement which was published in the Cornwall Chronicle newspaper in May 1835. This newspaper notice advertised a tannery for sale in Campbell Town. The advertisement tells us that the land on which the tannery was situated was 3 acres in size and that it fronted onto the Elizabeth River. Other details in the advertisement, such as the mention of 3 pits and 19 tubs, and the assertion that the Elizabeth River has lagoons that never dry, indicate that this advertisement was the basis for the information plaque shown earlier. However, if you read the newspaper advertisement carefully, you will notice that it does not say exactly where this 3-acre block of land was situated, only that it had a frontage on the Elizabeth River. Now, there were at least 4 different blocks of land in the Campbell Town township, which were originally 3 acres in size and which fronted onto the Elizabeth River. This chart shows where all of these blocks of land were situated. As it happens, one of these blocks was owned by James Hume. It was the block which I have circled here. This is the allotment of land where the information plaque for the Rookery, the plaque shown above, is displayed. And as it turns out, this block of land was owned by James Hume, who was the person advertising the tannery on 3 acres of land fronting the Elizabeth River for sale. This newspaper article appears to have led people to believe that it was James Hume's own 3-acre block of land that he was offering for sale, and therefore that the tannery was situated on this block of land. It does all seem to match up though, doesn't it? James Hume did own the 3-acre block of land fronting onto the Elizabeth River in Campbell Town, where the information plaque is situated. And James Hume was selling a 3-acre block of land fronting onto the Elizabeth River in Campbell Town. And yet, James Hume was not advertising this 3-acre block of land for sale because he was the owner. He was selling it because he was a licensed auctioneer, and he was offering it for sale by auction on behalf of the owner. Here is the newspaper notification showing that James Hume had been granted an auctioneer's licence for the county of Cornwall, which was the northern half of the island and included Campbell Town. It is dated the 27th of January 1835. Now, look again at the date of the advertisement for the tannery. It is dated the 19th of June 1835. So James Hume's name appears in the newspaper advertisement not because it was his land being sold, but that he was the auctioneer handling the sale. Now, this does not prove in itself that the tannery was not on James Hume's land. Even though Hume was handling the sale, it still could have been his own land that he was auctioning. So the question is, was there another 3-acre block of land in the township of Campbell Town, which was known to have a tannery on it, and which was likely to have been offered for sale in 1835? The answer to all of this is yes, there was. In May 1831, a gentleman by the name of John Undershell made an application to purchase an allotment of land in Campbell Town. John Undershell had arrived in Van Diemen's Land as a free settler in 1828 and was appointed to the position of commissariat clerk at Macquarie Harbour. On the 6th of August, he boarded the vessel Cyprus, which was sailing to Macquarie Harbour, with a complement of convicts for that settlement. Unfortunately, the Cyprus never arrived at Macquarie Harbour. Instead, it was seized by the convicts, who sailed off in it to freedom. Undershell and the other free people and military guard were put ashore at Research Bay on Tasmania's southern coast, where, after many trials and tribulations, they were able to return to Hobart Town. Undershell petitioned the local government for compensation for the items which he had lost as a result of this mutiny, but his application was denied. After this traumatic episode, Undershell appears to have given up on the idea of following through with his appointment as commissariat clerk at Macquarie Harbour, and instead went back to the trade which his father and grandfather had pursued before him, that is to say, as a tanner. He made an application for an allotment of land in Campbell Town, which was granted, and he proceeded to build his houses and install his vats and a bark mill. Although he had lost his personal belongings in the seizure of the Cyprus, Undershell appears to have had some capital set aside to help him in his venture. Plus, he was given additional financial assistance by James Hamilton, a prominent storekeeper in Campbell Town. For some reason, Undershell's venture did not flourish. He may have had intentions to leave Van Diemen's Land and try his luck elsewhere, because the newspaper advertisement for the sale of the tannery mentions that the proprietor is about leaving the colony on important business. Undershell never ended up leaving Van Diemen's Land, however. In July 1835, in some sort of a final fit of despair, he threw himself into the Elizabeth River and drowned. The official result of the inquest was that he had drowned himself while under temporary derangement of mind. The auction of his land and tannery did not end up taking place. Undershell had died without leaving a will, and so James Hamilton made a submission to the government asking that he be allowed to take over Undershell's assets, since he was Undershell's major creditor. This was allowed, and James Hamilton was eventually issued with the formal grant deed to Undershell's 3 acres in January 1837. So this is the story of the tannery which was advertised for sale by James Hume in 1835. The tannery did not belong to Hume himself. He was merely the auctioneer handling the sale. The tannery belonged to John Undershell and was situated at the far western end of the township of Campbell Town. The information plaque for the rookery is therefore incorrect in its claim that there was a tannery on the site. But the site still played an important role in the history of Campbell Town, despite this. A lot of other history was happening on the site during the 1830s, which had great significance for the township. And later I will make another video to tell this story.